Now, it is my great honor to introduce Ambassador Marc Nathanson. Ambassador Nathanson is the chairman of Mapleton Investments and the former ambassador of the United States to Norway. Nominated by President Joe Biden, Ambassador Nathanson served as the U.S. ambassador to Norway from 2021 to 2024. During his tenure, he established the Tromsø American Presence Post, finalized 2 military treaties, and welcomed the USS Gerald Ford. He supported NATO unity during the 2022 invasion of Ukraine and the accession of Finland and Sweden. As part of the UCSB class of 1969, Ambassador Nathanson was awarded a master's degree in political science, where he was a National Science Foundation Fellow. Please welcome the Honorable Marc Nathanson, our 2026 Commencement Keynote Speaker.
More than 50 years ago, I was sitting where you are. I was sitting exactly there. Let me say to all the graduates, congratulations. This is your day. You earned it. Back in my day at UCSB in 1967, I came to Santa Barbara with the love of my life, my wife, Jane. We just began graduate studies. We'd just been married in political science. As a newly married couple, we thought we made a very mature decision. We chose not to live in Isla Vista with all those rowdy undergraduate students. Instead, we found a small apartment on El Vedado Lane off State Street in Santa Barbara. Quiet, civilized, and as it turned out, a little too quiet. At the time, we were absolutely convinced that all the fun, concert, movies, and parties were in Isla Vista, and that Santa Barbara was populated entirely by people in their 60s and over. Well, time has a wonderful sense of humor. Today, we find ourselves well past 60, and suddenly, Santa Barbara seems like the perfect place for a second home. Funny how that works. Our affection for UCSB has never faded. But as I thought about what I would say to this extraordinary group of grad students on a day that reflects so much hard work, discipline, and probably more caffeine than you'd like to admit, I kept coming back to one idea: life's lessons. So today, I would like to share a few short stories about what's it involved, about the glories of Campus Point, late night study sessions that went far too long, Fireberg's burritos, Rory's ice cream, and Woodstock's pizza. You all have those stories, you all know about them, and you all navigated the challenges of graduate school here at UCSB. Let me tell you my lessons. Lesson 1 from my story: have a plan B. My father owned an ad agency in Chicago. From an early age, I thought I would work in the agency. After I graduated from UCSB, we moved to Chicago. My wife, Jane, was pregnant with our daughter, who's sitting right over there, Nicole, who also went to UCSB. And I said to my father, I'm ready to join the ad agency. He said to me, you aren't joining the ad agency. I don't believe in nepotism. So I had to develop a plan B. I went into the cable TV industry, and that wasn't easy. Lesson 2, relationships matter. I learned this lesson whether I was 30 years in business or the last 25 years that I've been in government. Relationships truly matter. In the late 80s, my company was acquiring cable systems in Arkansas. I needed a lawyer to represent us. That search led me to the Rose Law Firm and a young attorney named Hillary Clinton. She turned out to be an extraordinary partner at a critical moment in my company's growth. One evening, she invited me as we were working on this deal to dinner at the governor's mansion with her husband, then Governor Bill Clinton. I was exhausted. I declined, opting instead for room service. I totally dismissed Bill Clinton's political prospects after I heard him give a dreary 1988 Democratic Convention speech. How wrong was I? Over time, Jane and I have forged a lasting relationship with the Clintons, and we were just with them in Los Angeles a few weeks ago. You never know where relationships will lead. Years later, when President Clinton appointed me as chairman of the United States Agency for Global Media, I had the opportunity to introduce the Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, as the U.S. government was opening a new headquarters in Miami for radio and TV Marti. Instead of listing Madeleine's many accomplishments, I spoke only about her father, Professor Joseph Corbell, who had been our teacher at the University of Denver and impacted on my desire to go into government service. At the end of my remarks, she stood up with mascara running and said, "Mark, you'll always be known from now on as the man who made the Secretary of State cry." That moment led to a lasting friendship that lasted decades. Relationships matter. When Joe Biden appointed me as a U.S. ambassador to the Kingdom of Norway, he told me that I had 2 former secretaries of state to thank for their support. The bonds you cultivate will be your lasting legacy. Stay close to your classmates, to your professors, and prioritize relationships over convenience, over distractions, even over room service. You are graduating at a time of enormous global challenges: climate change, inequality, diminished human rights, and rapid technological changes. You are also graduating in a moment of unprecedented opportunities to make a difference. As a graduate student here, I learned an important and second lesson: never ignore history. As U.S. ambassador, I spoke openly about global conflicts, even when it was controversial. At a conference in Kirkenes, Norway, I addressed senior leaders from across Europe. In a speech, I compared Putin's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine to Hitler's attack on Norway in 1940. The press erupted. The Russian ambassador attacked me publicly on all the local press. But something more important happened. In the audience was the Finnish Chief of Defense, General Vesa Witterman, and Supreme Commander of the Swedish Armed Forces, General Mikael Biden. Both reached out to express their support, and shortly thereafter, Finland and Sweden joined NATO. The reaction was immediate and intense. Lesson 4, your voice matters. Your actions matter. Your vote matters. When I was at UCSB, I was a teaching assistant for an introductory class on political science with about 300 undergraduates. One of those undergraduates was Knut Wollenbach from Norway. Years later, he became the foreign minister and later its ambassador to the United States. When Jane and I arrived in Oslo, the very first Norwegians to invite us to lunch were Knut and his wife, Ellen. Once a gaucho, always a gaucho. You never know where your classmates will end up and how your paths may cross again. While in Tromsø, Norway, I attended a High North conference with representatives from all the Arctic nations except Russia. They gave an award for lifetime achievement to the world's leading scholar on the Arctic. I was surprised when UCSB Professor Orrin Young of the Brent School of Environmental Science and Management came forward and accepted the prize. You never know where your classmates or your teachers or even your TAs will end up. And my final advice to all of you is stand together in the world that often feels divided. Put down your phones once in a while. Do not outsource your thinking to artificial intelligence. Carry forward the sense of purpose, civility, and goodwill that you found here in Santa Barbara. Jane and I salute you. Congratulations, the class of 2026.